I did the suspension yesterday, lowered it, dropped it back 20mm with the spacer on. It's in my previous video. You also have to drop, to keep it even, drop the front to 20mm, as I said yesterday. 2 bolts in here, side and the steering, slacking them off. 2 underneath, slacking them off. And slide your forks up 20mm. Now normally they're just level with the top here, so 20mm each side. That way it's bringing the front down the same as the back, and it keeps the bike nice and even, and it'll handle just as it should. Also, don't forget when you're doing that, you've also got down in there, you can see it, you've got your what is it you call it, this thing here, stabilising bar, and it is also on a bolt. You can't see it very well, but it's on a bolt down here, so you need to slacken that off and push it right down. Once you've adjusted your shocks, push it right down on the top of this stock and then tighten it again, because if you don't, every time you move your handlebars, you know, they'll start to feel stiff, and steering lock, they'll start to feel stiff, so do that as well, and your steering will move nice and freely. Anyway, next job is the kickstand. Because you've lowered the bike, the kickstand's too high, so you need to take it off, and you take it off with one of these, I think this is a TX40. You get these sockets in the kit with your KTM, but to be honest with you, buy a set. Because if you like doing your DIY, you'll need a set of these, full set. It's only about $20 odd. So, anyway, take your kickstand off, there's a spring there as well. And then what you have to do is cut it and take 20mm out and weld it back up. Let's go and have a look. So here we're going into my lovely wee shed. Just a wee shed, but it does the job. So here's the kickstand. Put it in the vise. Now, I've already cut 20mm off from here. So what you do is you get your kickstand and you cut it. So before you cut it, draw a line along the top from one side to the other. So this, when you cut a section, you know what angle this is supposed to be at. So see, I can line it up with that line there, and I know that's the exact angle it should be. So cut it off, 20mm. Now what I did was I got this bolt. This bolt is 20mm from here to here, and I used that as a guide. I used it sitting on the top of the forks as a guide for lowering them up and down to I know I got exactly 20mm, and I used it as a guide for cutting my 20mm off, wherever the wee bit's gone. So yeah, so use that, as I find it easier rather than sitting with a tape measure trying to do it. So what I want to do now is I'll line that line up. I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's a scored line. Yeah, you can. Line that up. That was the score I put on it first. And we'll get the welder out and weld it. And then that should bring the kickstand down 20mm. Now, to be honest with you, it'll actually be a wee bit less than 20mm. Because I always found the kickstand too straight up and down. And when I dropped the bike 20mm, it was even worse. So, so what I've done, oops, is the bit I've cut out, as you'll see, it's actually, you can't really see with that, it's actually just a bow hair or two less than 20mm, so it's going to feel a wee bit better. So the best thing to do is hold that on there, put a couple of tacks in with the welder, and then weld it right the way around. And if you haven't got a welder, get one. They're great fun. Practice on bits of metal and learn how to weld. There's loads of videos on YouTube as well showing you how to do it. I've been doing it since I was a kid, and I'm still pretty crap at it, but however. So anyway, I'll get my welder plugged in, set up, and we'll start welding. So when you've done the weld, it's a good idea to use the buff just to tidy it up a bit, because my welding's a bit rough. So once you've done that, welded it, buff it down like that with your grinder, and just look for any wee holes like that. I like that wee bit there. As you can see, it's no welded right. So pop your welder back on, weld these wee bits up, give it another buff to smooth it off. There's no holes in your welds, fine. Then you can paint it, stick it back in the bike. So far so good. So now that's done, smoothed off. Rough as guts, I know. Anyway, I've got this paint, it's rust guard, it's a epoxy enamel. So it really goes on well. Just paint it with that. Try and give it a couple of good coats. Ladle it on. The thing's still quite hot, so it'll dry quick. If you ladle it on, then protects. Geez, that's hot. It's still very hot, but however, it'll dry quicker, and nobody will know that it's been cut, except for you and me. Yeah, right, I hear you saying. Fucking drip marks and everything. Yeah. Then once that's done, fucking that's still hot. Ah. Yeah, once it's done, let it dry for a wee bit and pop her back on the bike. Just paint the top of that plate as well. Get rid of these silver screws. There you go. A bit more on there because it's drying quick. And there's nothing stopping you going back to it tomorrow and giving it a second coat if you really want to. These brushes, 10 a penny. I never worry too much about wasting them. And there we go, one shortened kickstand. Now put it on. So that's kickstand on, just the one bolt. It's easier to hook the spring on first and then put the bolt in. Yeah. So let's see what it's like. Just run this off the big stand. And oh, much better. Back to how it was originally. So yeah, much better. Feet in the ground, move it no problem. And the kickstand, it just touches the ground of a wee bit. which is good. It's handy when you're getting somebody on the back, you can put the kickstand down so it doesn't tip over. But no, happy with that. Very happy with that. All good, and it's not leaning too far over. Just perfect. Back to how it should be. There you go, and that's the complete suspension, lowered and side stand altered. See you later.